Over this past summer, I started volunteering at the Naperville Area Humane Society, an animal shelter near my house. As soon as I finished my volunteer training, I went to the shelter like every day for 5 to 6 hours to make sure I was doing something productive that looked good on college apps. Because at first, that was all I cared about when I went to the shelter, doing something that looked good on my college apps. However, the more I went there, the more I started to really connect with the animals, and I even picked up on certain traits that certain animals had, like Red, who was blind and deaf, and Banjo, who was so hyperactive that it made him difficult to interact with. However, the more I went there and the more I interacted with these animals, the more I found a passion for helping these troubled animals. Soon, I was going to the shelter not just to do something for my college apps, but because I was really doing something productive by helping these animals. My time at the shelter was about to become a lot more productive when my friend Peggy started telling me to work with Sid and Hamm, 2 dogs who had been at the shelter for over a year and weren't even up for adoption. This was because they were so fearful that it compromised their quality of life and made adoption difficult, if not impossible. However, my time with them was invaluable, and it taught me so many life lessons, too many to count. So today, I will be sharing with you the 4 most valuable life lessons that everyone can learn from a couple of shy shelter dogs. Number one, always be open to trying new things. When I first went to the shelter, Sid and Hamm didn't want to come anywhere near me. It took me forever just to get their attention. Every day, I'd go into their kennels like 3 times a day, at least 5 minutes with each of them, just trying to get their attention. I'd place treats along my legs to try and get them to come to me, and I had no luck for at least 2 weeks. After those 2 weeks, I started trying to walk them, but I couldn't even get the leash on them for at least 30 minutes. However, after a while, they started coming to me on their own, lying down next to me, and even sleeping in front of me. I learned that the more patience something requires, the greater the reward. I waited forever to earn Sid and Hamm's trust, but when I finally did earn it, it felt so great. Patience doesn't just have to be waiting around for something to happen, but taking small steps, like how I place treats on my legs, to try and make a process happen more quickly or smoothly. Number 2, fear is often an illusion. We often create these situations in our mind of what could happen if we tried something new, when in reality, that would actually be very unlikely to happen. Sid and Hamm were and still are so afraid of the world that it prevents them from trying new things. They came to the shelter in October of 2018. However, they didn't go outside until April of 2019. Now, one of their favorite things to do is go outside and play together. However, their fear is still holding them back from experiencing a wide variety of experiences. Melinda Smith, a master in psychology, explains that fear can be a useful tool that can help us in a lot of situations, as long as we understand where it comes from and that it's often not real. While dogs don't understand that fear isn't usually not real, the same applies to them coming out of their shells. We can't allow the fear that we conjure up in our minds to hold us back from experiencing new things. Fear is okay, as long as you understand where it comes from and don't allow it to hold you back. Number 3, always find time for play. I found myself very busy at the shelter, even without working with Sid and Hamm, working with other dogs, cats, and volunteers. However, the shelter staff always reminded me how important it was to take Sid and Hamm outside to play. When they were outside, they were completely different dogs, running, jumping, playing together, nothing like they'd ever do inside the shelter. Play gets not just dogs, but people out of their typical environments and into a much lower stress-free one. Science World Today highlights some of the many benefits of play, include increased productivity in work and school, better cooperation skills, and of course, it lowers stress. If we took just a small amount of time out of our days to play or do something that we enjoy, the benefits would be clear and immeasurable, just like they are with Sid and Hamm. Number 4, always be open to change. Starting in August, the shelter staff started trying to look for alternative options to Sid and Hamm since the shelter environment wasn't working for them. As much as me and the other volunteers tried to help them, there was only so much we could do without professional training. Eventually, we found the Aspca Rehabilitation Center, which is for dogs whose fear is so great that it prevents them from it destroys their quality of life or makes adoption difficult, if not impossible, which fits Sid and Hamm perfectly. So they're not with us anymore. They're in Weaverville, North Carolina, getting more professional help so they can become normal dogs. This change for them brings a lot of unknown and fear. However, with great change comes great opportunity. For Sid and Hamm, they're getting the opportunity to become normal functioning dogs. And for us, change gives us the opportunity to do what we want with it. Change gives us the freedom to take advantage of a new situation and become who we want to be. Even though Sid and Hamm aren't with me anymore, I see their impact every day in my life. Whether I'm having fun with my friends, trying something new, or doing something I'm afraid of, like standing in front of all of you today, I see the impact that they've had on my life. And the life lessons that they have taught me are invaluable. And I hope that you too have learned something, even though these life lessons just came from a couple of shy shelter dogs. Thank you.